Hey guys, Kid here. Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be talking about why I think the macro problem in Anime Adventures will never go away, and is macroing really that bad? I'm going to discuss over some topics like what is a macro, how is it becoming a problem, are there any solutions, etc, etc. If you enjoy my Anime Adventures videos, make sure to hit the like button and also subscribe for more. Okay, first up, our first question here is what is a macro? A macro is short for macro instruction, basically a rule or pattern that specifies how a certain input should be mapped to a replacement output. These little hotkey scripts perform a certain function that allow you to play the game without actually having to touch your keyboard and mouse. They are not encouraged by the higher-ups who own these tower defense games, but at the same time, it's not like it's banned by Roblox, so macroing is completely fine as long as it's not hacks or anything. Moving on, how is it a problem? Now that we know what a macro is, let's talk about how it's a problem in the first place. From my understanding, it's not the fact that people are getting units easily or ruining trade values by obtaining units more often, but more of the fact that there's leechers invading other people's grinds and ruining it. What I'm referring to is basically the people who join your game during the matchmaking and collect a whopping 0 damage, ultimately becoming a burden to the other players, making it harder for them to grind. Other than that, I think there's no complaints against macro users. Let me discuss the difference between leechers and now the other side of the macroing community. Alright, moving on. Now let me go ahead and discuss the difference between leechers and the other side of the macroing community, because there's not just one side. Because people seem to not understand that there's two sides and not everyone uses leeching macros. Now we have leechers who primarily use tiny tasks to queue up into a game just to sit there AFK. And then on the other side, we have the people who use informal and other macroing software to actually place units to complete the winter event with a substantial amount of damage. No one would be complaining if there wasn't leechers queuing matchmaking and ruining the game. Macros have always been a part of the tower defense community. They're just now getting annoyed because of the leeching problem. This can be justified by this only becoming such a major problem in Anime Adventures because unlike Anime Adventures, no other game has matchmaking. So the real macros who've been doing this for quite some time usually do it alone or have macros that place units. But the thing is, tons of people are abusing this feature to simply get people to carry them. So to the non-macroers, I just want to let you guys know that a good bit of us don't actually use leeching macros, because the ones we use usually guarantee wins and grant the maximum amount of stars, so there's simply no reason to even leech at all in the first place. The only reason people use these leeching macros is to compensate for either A, their lack of skill when navigating technology, meaning you just don't even know how to set it up, or B, they lack the units meta enough to be able to solo the macro event themselves. After distinguishing between the two, let's talk about why we even do it in the first place. Alright, now why we macro? Now me personally, I would not care for the use of macros at all, simply if the event was just somewhat reasonably easier. I'm not saying make it a measly 10-minute portal you can get from Infinite, just not a 14-minute long manual grind where more than half the time you aren't doing anything exciting. People have lives and things to do, which leads to less time being able to play when they're busy. So for the people that are upset that they are not doing it manually, you just have to understand. Think about it this way. For the average high school player who has somewhat of a life, they might only be able to play after school, which is usually from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. But let's say they want to study after school or go to the gym or just go to sports practice, maybe even hang out with friends. That takes 2 hours out of their day, and that's 4 hours left to themselves. But you also have to account for the time they spent eating dinner with their family, doing chores, and just the simple things in life like taking a shower. Decrease that by an hour and they actually have 3 to play the game. And if they hopped on Anime Adventures just to do the winter event, then they would essentially only have 4 to 5 runs to do per day, which is obviously not nearly enough that I would say to obtain a secret unit that's 1 in 80,000 chance to get. How can we solve it? Now that we've gone over all of that, let's think of some solutions. The first thought that comes to mind for me is for people to just use Discord and find people that way. But for some people, that's the extremely small minority who don't have Discord, that's apparently not an option. To which I have to say, there's nothing you can really do about it. I don't know if it's just me, but it's hard to believe that you play Anime Adventures in the big 2025 and for some reason you don't own Discord. Also, another thing is that if you're a low level, just grind the game out until you have enough good units to solo it using a macro. That would be a lot easier and a better way than just leeching and wasting everyone's time. Since not only you don't have to be present, but you also get the max amount of stars available by completing it. Even though I just gave 2 solutions to the problem that everyone's been talking about, I doubt anyone will actually listen and do something with it, because it's too easy and accessible to leech without any repercussions. Now they did add in a capture system, but within like the first day or so, they had already found a way to bypass that, which furthers my point when I say macros will never not be a problem. It's a tower defense game, so you just have to accept it. They quite literally exist on every single one you play. That's all I have for today. If you enjoyed my yap session, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more Anime Adventures content. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.